Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm back, just me, by myself. I hope you enjoyed the episodes that came before while I was gone on vacation. But I am back in the saddle, doing that thing you do when you get back from vacation, where you spend an entire week contemplating why you went on vacation, because it's a complete and total disaster coming back. Um, yeah, I was able to relax finally, chill out for a minute, but I haven't done that in a long time. But yeah, it's been a week. The week from hell coming back, just from the amount of work that was needed to be done. So, anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning into those episodes while I was gone. I'll probably release some of those more as we go along here. I think they're pretty good episodes. I like the interviews that I did, and gives you guys a little peek behind what else I do in life. But also, especially the first one was like even Bitcoin relevant, because it's about the 1984 book and the Orwellian world we live in. So with that being said, before I go any further, because I'll be talking about today a little thing called backing the US dollar with Bitcoin. Okay, let's see how that works. But before we do that, before we get into that, I want to thank the Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. Go to bitbox.swiss and use the promo code Bitcoin Made Simple, and you'll get 5% off your order. And secure your keys, get them off the exchange, and protect yourself from the predatory environment that is some of these Bitcoin companies, quote unquote, air quote, Bitcoin companies, or really the shitcoin casinos. Protect yourself from them going belly up and get a Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. This is, yes, a paid sponsorship, but it's also a public service announcement, because frankly, not enough people are doing it. And it's really not that hard. It's really not that hard to take custody of your your keys. What am I? Ugh, of your coins. That's what it was. Keys. Then I went to transition to coins, and it came out keens. So take custody of your keens. Get them off the exchange. Also, shout out to Upstream Data. Go to upstreamdata.ca. Get yourself a black box if you are like me and you are mining. It will make your black box quiet and not so noisy. So I recommend you get one of those. Get it pumping. Get some non-KYC sats rolling through your black box and into your, as I've said before, get a DCA machine at Upstream Data. Go to upstreamdata.ca. They have all the stuff there. And last but not least, Movies Plus. You guys heard with a couple of interviews I did. There's tons of movies like that and more. So I hope you guys check those out. And if you're going to want to support the platform, use the promo code Corey, CORY. You get 1 year for $24, $2 a month. Can't really beat that. Tons of content that you can't see elsewhere. And then there's also content that you can see elsewhere, but it might be riddled with ads. So for $24, you get all the content you can't see elsewhere. And you get to watch all the stuff that we have commercial free, or that other people have, but you get to watch it with no commercials. So do that. Also, we have our live streaming channels you can check out at any time. And yeah, there's some more. I'll get into. We have a partnership in place right now. That I mean, the paperwork is signed, but I guess I was gonna give you a hint and say he talks like this. If you know what I'm talking about, it's gonna blow this thing up. It's gonna be huge. But yeah, we are Movies Plus is partnered with Infowars. So yeah, that happened. So they'll be promoting the crap out of us. We're getting them some spots right now, some ad copy, as they say in the marketing world, to to start running in their programming. So if you listen to InfoWars, Alex Jones show, all that kind of stuff, you shall see our ads running, and then I'm not exactly sure when it'll be, but maybe in like 2 months, I think yours truly will be on Alex Jones's show. So, yep, that's that's happening. Kind of, takes this thing to the next level when you're, the freedom of speech platform, and then you have somebody that reach out to partner with you, and it's someone to the level of Alex Jones who, say what you will about him. Is he always right? No. Who is? And he's also been so banned from everything in the world that he must be over target on a lot of things. So, anyways, that you'll be hearing more about that because that stuff is rolling out. Also, shout out to my sister and my new baby niece, who was just welcomed into the world last night. What up? I won't give that name out. Nice try, feds. But you know who you are. And this is probably the first podcast that my niece is listening to. And maybe in 20 years, when she's an adult, she'll sit there and go, I'm going to go back and listen to that episode. It was the first podcast I ever listened to, and it was Uncle Corey talking about Bitcoin. The thing I want to talk about with Bitcoin, my dear niece, is something that maybe will have happened by the time you are 20 years old. I doubt it, though. Let's get into it. Backing the US dollar with Bitcoin. So that's what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is proposing, or stated. But apparently he only said he'd maybe back like 1% of T-bills with it. I don't know. But, by the way, first of all, if you're watching the video and you see this thing on my lip, that apparently is apparently I got sunburnt on my lip, and it has been a MFer for sure. The one day at the beach, I promise I'll get to the Bitcoin thing. The one day at the beach, my oldest is like finally at the age where he really likes going into the ocean and being in the waves and riding the boogie board and all that kind of stuff. And so the one day, I think he was in the water for a total of 5 hours, and I was obviously in with him. And that day, I could feel like as the day was going on, I was like, my bottom lip feels a little weird, but whatever. And then, and I could feel it. I was like, something doesn't feel quite right. And then it felt a little bit sensitive that night. And I'm like, there's no way that I got sunburnt on my lip. And I did. And so now I have this bad boy. It looks like I got sucker punched in the mouth. But I tried when it was really bad the one night. I was trying to give my wife a good night kiss, and I was like, and like sticking my upper lip out, and she just laughed at me, which is what you always want your wife to do whenever you're trying to give her a kiss, is for her to just laugh at you. Anyways, so yeah, that's what that shiner is on my lip if you're watching the video. So backing the US dollar with Bitcoin, RFK Jr. comes out, says that's what he's going to do when he's elected president. And of course, Bitcoin Magazine, so many others just go nuts over it. They're like, oh my God, all shit in their pants because a political candidate of any sort uttered the word Bitcoin. Then they uttered the word that they are running for president and they want to back the US dollar with Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay, that is worthy of discussion. But it's also not like people are trying to pass it off like it's happening. I mean, look at it. We've crossed the Overton window has shifted and blah blah blah. And this is my film studies degree talking about economics here. So again, not financial advice. This is me not pretending to have an economic brain other than what I've gathered through learning through Bitcoin. But there is no way that I see that the US dollar can be backed with Bitcoin in the near term or in the short term or in the long term. The near term or the long term. The reason is because wouldn't that mean that the price would have to land at a fixed dollar amount basically immediately? Like pretty much immediately you'd have to have a fixed dollar amount. And I don't see how that could happen. When the US dollar was backed by gold and actually backed by gold, it was a fixed rate of $35 per ounce of gold. So how is RFK Jr. going to become president in 2024? I guess technically he'd become president in January of 2025. How's he going to back the US dollar with Bitcoin? Is something that, love it or hate it, is still as volatile as can be. Will still be incredibly volatile. I just don't see it. I don't see how that would happen. I mean, you'd have to think, let's say he does it in the year 2025. Say he wins, backs the US dollar with Bitcoin. How crazy that would be, because not only would that make the bull run, that would make a major bull run, but think about how volatile it'll be, because we're already at that point, will have been at some point during year 2025 we will be 12 months out from past the halving. So the supply shock, the price will start running in 2024 probably, and so the volatility is going to be off the charts. Then they're just going to come in and say we're backing the US dollar with Bitcoin. There's no way. It's just not. I don't think it's possible. I don't know, but you guys know I try to be open-minded, and there's obviously smarter people than me that know what they're doing here. But then again, I'm if I wasn't open-minded, then I wouldn't be here with Bitcoin. So you have to stay open-minded. I mean, would it be great? Yeah. The price of Bitcoin in that scenario would be astronomical. I mean, they'd have to come out and pretty much say, we're going to back Bitcoin with $1 each. They would have to say, because you never fix the price of Bitcoin across all markets, but you'd have to say $1 is redeemable for, I mean, you basically would have to take the $21 million schedule, or here, this might be a really bad exercise, but let's just do it. Total US dollar money supply in circulation. So there's $2.26 trillion in the world right now. That is according to something on Google, so it has to be true. Okay, so so that's million, billion, trillion. Okay, So let's just say they want to make it, the same way that gold was 1 ounce of gold was redeemable for 35 US dollars. So let's take the total amount of dollars in the world, divide it by the total amount of Bitcoin that will ever exist, which we all know is 21 million. So that would put, is that right? I mean, based off of this statistic of 2.26 trillion, let me do it again. 260, 2 million, 2 billion, 2 trillion, 2.26 trillion divided by 21 million. Yeah, $107,619. You guys are probably stats majors and going, what in the world is going on? Your math is terrible, and it's probably horrific. I'm not saying that that's what the point of this exercise is, to say, okay, they round about and they go, we're going to, 1 Bitcoin is converted, is worth 100,000 US dollars, assuming the money supply doesn't change. Would you be happy with that? Just think about that. If it was fixed, 1 US dollar was worth $100,000, or was 1 Bitcoin was worth 100 US dollars in a system where the US dollar could not be manipulated going forward. Boy, I should have thought this out more, but you guys are getting my mental thoughts. And that's also kind of what this podcast is just my smooth brain pleb thoughts, having them out loud. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, you wouldn't be able to prevent a future set of politicians coming in and changing the rules to not manipulate the dollar anymore. So I guess the price of Bitcoin would fluctuate if you're pegging the US dollar to Bitcoin. I should probably have somebody on and have like a legit, just like full out discussion about this, because if you're pegging it, you couldn't just say, we'll give you $100,000 for every Bitcoin in perpetuity, because then whenever another party gets in there and starts messing around with it and messing around with the rules and the money supply, people are gonna be like, I'm not giving you a Bitcoin for $1. Although it's an interesting thing to think about. What happened when the U.S. started? That's kind of what unraveled when the U.S. started printing money to fund the Vietnam War. And other countries are like, whoa. You're changing the money supply. I want my gold back. And that's when we were like, no, we'll keep it. But thanks for trying. So yeah, it's just a thought experiment. I guess that's basically what would happen, because that's what happened with the gold. Is they'd say, we'll give you $100,000 for every Bitcoin. And people would be like, yeah, the price just went up, but it's going to be there forever. And then there'd be two scenarios. There'd be the one scenario where, in an ideal Austrian economic world, there's a fixed number of dollars going forward, and it is in a ratio of whatever that number was, 2.2 trillion US dollars in existence, backed by Bitcoin on the treasury, convertible at a rate of $100,000 per coin. And nobody would be able to manipulate that going forward. In that scenario, then we live in a deflationary, we live in a deflationary environment, but our economics would actually be able to reflect that. So the cost of things would go down. So the value of $100,000 in 20 years would be worth a lot more than $100,000 is now. $100,000 now buys you, like, depending on where you live. If you live in New York City and you want to buy a house for $100,000, it's probably not the house you thought it would be for that amount of money. But everything would come down. Your value, the value of your Bitcoin would actually be going up when priced in terms of your everyday expenses. Then you would. But then there's the other scenario, which, could you ever really prevent this? Is that a political party gets in there, says this was cute, but we're done with it, or the Fed just starts printing, or the money supply resumes getting manipulated, and then we become like the countries like France and so on in the mid 1900s. They were like, whoa, you said the dollar is as good as gold. What? It's not. If you're printing money, I want my gold back. In this scenario, it would be like, no. I'm not selling you my Bitcoin. Like, you're crazy. You increase the money supply by 50%. So I should be able to get $150,000 from my Bitcoin. And that's where it would come off the rails again. And if you ask me, knowing politicians and how they roll, that's probably what would happen. So yeah, I don't see it happening. But it doesn't mean it can't. I don't know. I just think a lot of people were riding the hopium train with RFK Jr. I mean, he's like on point with so many political points, and then just like absolutely swinging and missing on a couple others. He's like that for an American baseball reference. I say American baseball as if like how we say like American football, because we call it football and you guys call soccer football. Be like if you guys took baseball and then started calling it baseball over there and were trying to tell us, no, call that snickerdoodle. We'd be like, oh, no, it was baseball to us. So now I kind of get that argument, but I still like to drive people nuts by calling our football and your football soccer. The audacity of Americans. I think I shared that post on the 4th of July. It's like, happy birthday to the country who invented another sport, named it football, and told the rest of the world that their sport called football is now called soccer. So anyways, yeah, I don't see it. He's like one of those players that gets up there and you're like, he's swinging for the fences, and when he connects, boy, does he hit it hard and solid and straight and long, and it goes over the fence. But when he doesn't make contact, man, does he miss. He's sitting dead red on a fastball every time. And if you throw him something off speed, which in this scenario would be his issues with when he's going with like gun rights and affirmative action, just a handful of things he just completely whiffs on. That'd be like him sitting dead red on a fastball, and you just drop a change up in there that looks exactly the same but is 15 miles per hour slower. And he just swings out of his shoes. So I don't know. I mean, if I vote, which I don't even know, I hate to say that, but I just don't like any politicians. If I had to vote, maybe he'd get mine, because it's a shot to the system. It's a wrench. Like, if he's really going to go in there in the things that he's like super strong on, if he's really going to go in there and change the system, then maybe that's worth it. You know, he sucks on so many other things, but you gotta break a few eggs if you want to make an omelet. So yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts on RFK. I'll move on from it because I'm just dragging. But then another thought I had. By the way, you should get a Bitbox O2 hardware wallet from bitbox.swiss. Before I forget, I gotta make sure you guys get one of those. I can see who uses the promo code. I can't see who does, but I can see when it gets used, and it's pretty cool. Also, the promo code Corey, it still blows me away how many people have used it. Out of the millions of you that listen, only a couple hundred have used it. No, it's a pretty good. It's impressive that hundreds of people have used it. So keep on keeping on. But an interesting 2 weeks of vacation, 11 days, whatever it was. Got to spend a lot of time with family, and I doubt my family listens other than my sister. But I won't. This isn't me trying to say, oh, I don't want the person to hear. I just won't say who these different conversations were with. But it was really interesting to me to sit there and have to listen to the cognitive dissonance with certain things going on in the world. And certain things in the geopolitical realm. I was not making claims, just saying that it should be observed with a microscope, and we should be making sure we're not being lied to. And so I basically said, okay, so you have the Vietnam War, you have Desert Storm, and you have the Iraq War as the three hot wars. And mind you, the three hot wars that we've been in since we went off the gold standard. Those were all based on a lie. And we know that now. So why are they telling the truth now? What has changed that would make them tell the truth now? Nothing. And that was the checkmate conversation. And then another one of it's like, oh, hey, sorry that you weren't allowed at certain events for certain reasons. My bad. It's just all, we all lost our minds there for a little bit. I think people that have just been duped to different degrees just don't want to admit it. And I admit I'd probably be the same way. But sometimes I want to just be in normie world. I was talking to my friend about this last night. It's like, don't you ever just sit there and think like, man, wouldn't it be great to just, because you're like, this thing is like it is not objectively true. And there's a ton of lies within these different narratives that are out there about different things. But most people just want to be on a team. So they just have to accept some form of a lie somewhere along the lines. And I just can't do that. And I was saying to my friend, don't you just ever sit there and think, man, you just go into normie world, just unplug yourself and just be on another level where you're like, yeah, I agree with you. What's up? We're on the same team. Because that's the thing. It's a lonely thing to be sitting here. looking for truth is a lonely thing, because a lot of people don't sit in that world. They will accept some form of lie. It just is a lie that they prefer. A lie that paints a picture of a world that they want to see exist. That's more in line with what they want. I'm really beating around the bush here on like the topics, because this isn't just about those specific political, topics. Because this goes with like everything, and I've been on like a truth-seeking mission, and I can't even download the thoughts in this. Maybe I will sometime, but it's a mixture of everything. I mean, it touches everything. It's our money supply. It's what's current events have been going on. It has to do with our human history, how long we've been around, and where we come from, and it's just a lot. It's a lot of information to take on, and when you do take it on, you're just like, well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like my friend said, we talk about these things. It's like our intellectual discussions of just, this is interesting. What happened here? What's this? Talking about history, things that people don't talk about. And I said, there is no going back once you go through some of these doors. Kind of like with Bitcoin, there's no unlearning Bitcoin. There's no going back on some of these things. I'll give you guys like a brief example, because I don't get, like, you would think, oh, is he going down the crazy rabbit hole? Surprisingly, even though we have 3 flat Earth documentaries on Movies Plus, I do not believe the Earth is flat. I'm not a subscriber to a lot of the crazy theories out there, but it was just with my friend. It was 2 things intersecting, and I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast before, but I'm like reading the Bible from the beginning, actually reading it, not just doing the church version, half paying attention. Because like, what's going on here? Because the more you dig through history, the more these texts start lighting up. So anyways, I don't pretend like I don't have answers. I don't have concrete things, but there's certain evidence. So anyways, I saw this article while I was on vacation. It said, archaeologists have found a massive, or a large hand axe that is over 300,000 years old in England. So first of all, they're befuddled. How could something be only 300,000 years old with that type of technology whenever we were just, Neanderthals wandering the planet before 10,000 BC? Number 2, how could humans use this as a hand axe? This thing is huge. So I read that headline, which, first of all, I do believe that humans have been here way, 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 way longer than we think. I think things like, I do, so, Graham Hancock doesn't go the religious aspect. I tend to go the religious aspect. But Graham Hancock talks about, pre-Ice Age, the Younger Dryas. And he says we're a society with amnesia. And I believe that to be very true. We're a society with amnesia. We do not remember where we came from because there were massive floods that wiped out a lot of civilization at the end of the Ice Age. How do I know that? Well, first of all, it's in the Bible. Second of all, it's not just in the Bible, it's in like every ancient culture across the world. They all have the same flood myth. And they have, they don't happen at the same time. So, yes, Atlantis most likely is real. Why would Plato make that up? So I'm scratching the surface here. I'm sorry if I'm really throwing you guys for a loop. If you want to hear more about these things, I don't know, maybe I could do side discussions on it. But it's hard. Like it's not like a narrative. It's hard to go down. There's so many threads to go down. But anyways, so I was looking in the Bible simultaneous to seeing this thing. We're like, how is this thing 300,000 years old? Humans weren't here 300,000 years ago. Oh well, you know what? Those those sculptures inside, certain caves and dwellings and buildings in Central America that have humans riding triceratops. Yeah, those are just idiots. They were just making that up. So maybe there's more to it than we know. But then they go, oh, the size, this is huge. And I just happened to be reading something about the Nephilim, I think that's how it's pronounced, in the Bible. Then you go into the Bible and you're like, dude, it says it right here. Like, I'll pull it up. I'll send what I sent my friend. It's like, I sent him the article first of all. And then, so here, this is, and there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. What? And it goes on. There's more, but I mean, there are multiple. It breaks down like where Goliath came from, and the size of Goliath compared to David and other humans, and you're like, like, this is deep. So I'm here to tell you that that's one of the many journeys I'm on, but it's just mind blowing, and I feel like I've scratched the surface on the first percentage of information that can be attained. So anyways, that is a lonely journey because you can't just walk down the street, like in your everyday life and your friends, your like close friends around. You can't just be like, so what do you think? Were there giants that lived 300,000 years ago? Like, the people are gonna be like, okay, we're not inviting Corey over anymore. People just don't want to have those conversations, and I get it because it's really hard to have those conversations. But I'm fascinated with where we come from. And the coolest thing for me has been seeing that this fascination has coincided with a lot of the religious texts that I grew up reading and hearing in church, but not, I guess, fully understanding, because they freaking say this stuff. They just come out and say like in the it's like, oh, Noah was 900 years old, and then people just move on to blah 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 blah. And it's like, what? Whoa, hope, what? Noah had help from giants? Like what? Like the Bible, you would think like, oh, this must be some like, outdated version of the Bible. No, it's like in the Bible, like the real one, the one that like most likely your church follows. And talk about giants. And most of the world just moves along and ignores that. And yeah, I'm like able to move. Like I don't obsess over it. I'm like, it doesn't really affect current day. It's like, yeah, I mean, that probably was possible. Like there's a good chance that humans coexisted with some forms of dinosaurs. Like, why wouldn't they? It's just, yeah, like, there's so much. We just assume in our lives that we know things, and we just move on assuming, and boy, oh boy, trying to uncover these things and work through it can be lonely. But the reason I bring it up to you guys is that it's also makes me feel similar to what my Bitcoin journey has brought me through, because my Bitcoin journey has probably brought me to this level of understanding certain things like that. The desire for truth and seeking, seeking beyond, what standard knowledge is. And so, yeah, we have these uncomfortable political conversations as Bitcoiners. Political, in life, financial. Because if you're a Bitcoiner, you've gone through that door. There's no going back. The only way you can go back is if you lie to yourself and you live a lie. So, congratulations, Anon. You're no longer a pleb. We all call ourselves plebs, but if you have gone through that Bitcoin door and you know the truth, it's a scary thing because you know the truth about money and are learning the truth about a lot more things in life. And there's no going back, because if you really are a Bitcoiner and you try to go backwards, you're being disingenuous. So I'll leave you with that. Don't be disingenuous. Have integrity. The more integrity you have out there in the questions and things you ask for, the better response you're going to get from the universe or God or whatever you want. I call it God, I call it Jesus, but however you're putting it out there, the more integrity, the more genuine you are. When your questions, the more genuine your responses will be. And I'll leave you with this as the final word, is that if you are seeking the truth, I think, what did Jesus say something about the truth? I'm going to look it up real quick. Jesus, truth. This is not going to probably be easy for me to find. Jesus talking about seeking truth. I can't find the exact thing, but I know there's something along the lines of be careful for what seeking the truth, because for what you might find, something along the lines of what you might find, it might scare you, but it will also give you the tools to understand everything. So it's not for the faint of heart. And we know at this point that Bitcoin is not for the faint of heart. So get a BitBox O2 hardware wallet from Shift Crypto and make sure that you guys secure your coins off the exchange. And I will talk to you guys later.